All right, Mike, kick us off.
We'll jump in. So Brian, we're going to bring you into our world. This is what we do on our group calls. We're going to get a little bit awkward and we're going to move some energy. Okay. And then we're going to center with some breath to make sure that we're all as present as we can be for our call. So let's stand up, guys, and just start to give a little bit of a stretch. And then, as I promised, awkward, I'm going to add some music for us. Okay. So I just want us to move our energy a little bit here, guys.
Good timing, Joe. Put the camera on. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I think my thing's really easy.
Tag team back again.
Can you check the settings?
Do some stretches. Do some twists.
Joe, get up and start dancing, bro.
Get those legs up.
If you get in the room, you better move.
5 more seconds, boys. 5 more seconds. Let's go.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Wind it down.
It's hilarious.
All right. Now, if we are sitting, let's settle in our seats for a moment. And we're going to breathe together for a moment as well. And just get nice and centered. So just settle in, roll your shoulders back. Allow your legs to rest, your arms to rest. And we'll just do a bit of breath here, guys. So start to deepen your regular breath. And then we're just going to do one power round, guys, of a big forceful breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, circular breathing, no rest at the top, no rest at the bottom. And we're going to start that breath in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Big inhale through the nose, out through the mouth. So force that inhale through the nose and let the breath fall away out the mouth. Keep the circular breath going. We're going to do 20 breath here to a hold. Keep breathing. Good, guys. 10 more breath here. Let's bring that connection. Let's bring that fire. 5 more breaths together here, guys. When we get to that last exhale, we're going to hold, and I'll count for us. Two more breaths. And on our exhale, we're going to release and hold. Let's hold that breath at the bottom. Good. Find that power in that hold, guys. Feel that energy arriving. Welcome it. Surrender to it. We'll hold for 10 more seconds here. And we're going to do a big inhale and hold once more at the top. In 3, 2, 1. Big inhale through the nose. Hold at the top. Feel that air, that oxygen, that beautiful gift. Feeling our heart center. Opening us up to the beautiful connection of this call and each other. Offering us complete presence for today's chat. And we'll release in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it all fall away. Anything from the morning is fallen away. And a new energy has arrived for this moment. We do One more big inhale and exhale together, guys. We're going to breathe in with gratitude for one another for showing up today. In 3, 2, 1. Big breath in. Big breath out. And with our left hand over our heart, our right hand over top, let's put a gentle smile on our face. We all tend to take life a little too seriously. Let's welcome that smile. Let's feel the warmth. And let's dive into some great conversation together. When you're ready, you can blink open those eyes. Do a big bear stretch overhead. And we will dive in together, guys.
Beautiful. Love it. Thank you, Mike.
Very welcome.
All right, boys. I am going to just kind of get us started on all this and set a little context. So first of all, if the three guys here, David, Alfred, Joe, if you guys wouldn't mind just typing in the chat. Well, we know your names already, but even just where you're located. And if there's anything in particular that's come up for you that you're hoping to address in this call, maybe it's a question, maybe it's an expectation, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just like, hey, just glad to be here. But just pop it in the chat there. And then there'll be plenty of opportunity for us to all just kind of jam here. We're going to go to the top of the hour and then we all got to run. So we'll flow with that. And then to just give a little context here too. So Mr. Brian Bogert is with us here today. And I was thinking about this as we were doing the breath there. You know, we default to action around here, Brian, which is, you know, we start before we even know all the answers. And it's the same with this too. You know, we don't have a name for what these conversations are, but something that came to me was just, you know, this is a higher wisdom chat. This is an opportunity for everybody, I think, to learn from the lessons and the pain that you've experienced in life and what gifts it's brought you and where you're at in your journey, quite frankly, and to share those things. And in saying that too, what I also recognized is that we all have this within us. Like every single guy that's here has a story to tell, and somebody gets to hear that story and will be impacted by it. And that's how you and I really connected, Brian, was through multiple chain of events that brought us together. And there was instantly like this connection to have a deeper conversation. And I'm just grateful that we're here to have another one of those, right? With no expectation other than like, this is going to be beautiful. So with that being said, if you wouldn't mind just starting off, because I know you have told this story many, many times, but it always really lands and kind of gets everybody to ground in where we're at. And, you know, who is Brian? Can you give us a little bit of the backstory, and then we'll kind of flow into, you know, what you're up to nowadays and this big mission, this big, hairy, audacious goal that you have that we want to be a support to you to help elevate.
Yeah, thank you. First and foremost, thanks for having me here. Like I said, I just love to be surrounded by conscious, heart-centered individuals who are looking to make an impact on the world. And all of you, it's clear, not just because of who you associate with and the fact that you're in this room, but just the energy that you all portray. It's obvious. And so it's a pleasure to be in your presence. Mike, I want to take a second and say thank you for guiding the breath work. I'm used to being the one doing all that. So to have the chance to you come in here and center myself even further and connect and feel the room versus having to guide it was quite the pleasure. So thank you for that. Look, guys, I'm a man. I'm a human. I'm a husband. I'm a father. Being a dad and being a husband it's the only thing binary in my world. Literally. Everything else exists in the gray area. What you'll learn is like, I'm still on a journey. We all are. There is no final destination. And, you know, it's really important to listen to what Trevor said in the beginning about the stories and the importance of your own. I'm going to bring you into mine, and I'm going to give you a somewhat expedited version of it because I really want to spend as much time interacting as possible. But there's a couple details that I really do want to hit because it's important for the understanding. When I was 7, my mom, my brother, and I went to our local Walmart to get a 1-inch paintbrush. And anybody who's known me for more than about a few minutes now, this isn't the greatest representation because I just got so centered and calm through Mike's beautiful breath work. But like anybody who's known me for a couple of minutes knows that I've got a ton of fucking energy. I walk fast, I talk fast, I move fast, I'm excited for life. I've always been that way. So it wasn't a surprise that I was the first one in the car. This was back in the days, though, before key fobs. We're all around the same age, so we all understand that. We know what that was like, right? Back in the 90s, back in the 80s, it's like, yeah, no, we're going to get in the fucking station wagon and we're going to go roll as a family. And that's what I had to do. I had to wait for my mom to reach in her purse, grab the keys, pull it out, stick it in the door, and turn the keys. But I was 3-4 feet in front of them. And the truck pulls up in front of the store, parks, and the driver and middle passenger get out. Passenger all the way to the right feels the truck moving backwards. So he did what any one of us would do and scooted over to put his foot on the brake, but he instead hit the gas. Combination of shock and force threw him up on the steering wheel, up on the dashboard. Before you know it, he's catapulting 40 miles an hour across the parking lot right at us with no time to react. I'm standing there with my hand on the handle, waiting for my mom to unlock the doors, and the truck comes up and over the median, up and over the tree in the median, hits our car, throws me to the ground, runs over me diagonally, tearing my spleen, leaving a tire track scar on my stomach, and continuing on to completely sever my left arm from my body. It was August 10th, 1992, 115-degree day, 6:10 p.m. Next thing my mom hears is, "Mom, Brian's arm is over there, 10 feet away." And as her gaze looked up to see my arm, she saw the trail of muscle that was cooking like hamburger on the asphalt. Fortunately for me, I had a guardian angel there that day. There was a nurse that walked out of the store right when this took place, and she saw the literal life and limb scenario in front of her. It's important that I bring attention to this because I've said for years that I'm forever indebted to this woman because of her choice in that moment to go into action. That story and statement became even more powerful when I met her for the very first time last August on the 30th anniversary of the accident, within 2 hours of the accident. And I had a conversation with her, and I learned that day that she had a friend with her who was also a nurse, who had all the same training, who did not choose to go into action. And I want to be really, really clear. I completely honor, respect her choice to do that, her freedom to do that. There's no ill will against this person, but what it does do is impress upon the point that I'm trying to make, that the power of choice to go into action in a singular moment can have a ripple effect in your life, the lives of others, in a way that could impact hundreds of millions, if not billions of people because of a choice in a moment. Look, here's the reality. She came over and stopped the bleeding on the main wound and saved my life. She also instructed some innocent bystanders to run inside, grab a cooler, fill it with ice, and get my detached arm on ice within minutes so that it wouldn't die and cook on the parking lot like the muscle, right? So if it wasn't for this woman, I either wouldn't be here with you all today, or I'd be here with you today with a cleaned up stump. That's just the fucking reality, right? Now, here's the piece I really want to reinforce. I realize I've got an extremely unique story. But what I've also learned in all my time of doing this and working with some of the highest performers in the world is that every single one of you has a unique story. So regardless of the extremities of your stories, what's important is that you learn how to pause and become aware of the lessons you can extract from those stories so you can become intentional in how you apply them in your life moving forward. And you also all have the ability to tap into the collective wisdom of other people's stories to shorten your own curve to learning. Shit, if someone else can pay the dummy tax, why would you? Right? And so the reality of it is that I used to believe this was my transformation story. This was the thing that was going to define my life. And largely it's what I'm known for. But as we get further into this discussion, what you'll learn is that it was this story that created a ton of trash from my past that I carried for years and didn't even realize it. The armor that I protected myself with in ways that I didn't even consciously or unconsciously aware of how I was protecting myself so far disconnected me from who I was, what I wanted. And oh, by the way, I've had a fuck ton of external financial success based on the world has defined it. But that doesn't also mean that I'm in a position where I'm financially secure in every single moment. I'm a human and things ebb and flow and there's energy. But the reality of it is, guys, is what I know for a fact is that the world tells you, and most people believe, that you're stuck because you have the wrong strategy and tactics. It's a fucking lie. Strategy and tactics are critically important. They're essential for scaling your life and your business. But I'm telling you definitively that the singular thing that keeps every single person stuck is the trash from your past. It's those things you haven't looked at, those things you haven't wanted to admit happened to you, the things you might not even be consciously aware of that exist in the current moment, and how your body physiologically responds to protect itself in fight or flight, causing you to react and create damage in your world, when in reality, it has nothing to do with what's right in front of you. It has everything to do with the trash from your past. It continues to show up as your fatal flaw, the singular thing that you are not able to escape, again, whether you realize it's there or not. So we'll get into deeper portions of my story, but I dealt with a deep, deep, deep level of shame. I had anger buried so deep it could barely be excavated. And I told you the only thing binary in my world is my wife and my kids. But I also, a few years ago, when I executed my buy, sell in my last business to decide to go pour into the world to help everyone discover who they are, 18 months later, my wife told me that things I did, ways I showed up, patterns that were created, things I was still doing, had created a pattern that had contributed to her losing who she was. It was a fucking dagger to the heart. Reality of it is if I'm pouring into the external world and I'm tearing down my family, even if it's unconscious, just because of the edge and the armor that I'm carrying myself with, the intensity of my energy, the way that I can create and move these things through. Here's the other truth. My wife and I have been together for 17 years. We hid from each other for 14 without knowing it. And she's only felt emotionally safe with me for the last 12 to 18 months. Guys, I've been through shit. I've had a lot of fucking amazing things happen in my life. But the reality of it is I absolutely know how the human experience works, and the way that I've had to dive in myself through a modality of a variety of different techniques has given us a framework to be able to help people actually see themselves more clearly and have the ability, desire, and courage to stand in and consistently seek and desire their truth. And it just so happens that when you can start to identify and remove the things that no longer serve you, the trash that continues to crush you, you get to align more with you. It's amazing how the universe actually works for you when you stop resisting it. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you for sharing that, brother. Appreciate you bringing us in.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. And I've heard it. I've heard variations of you telling that story and just what comes up for you and how it's helped define your purpose and everything. And that was actually one thing that came to mind. I forwarded this to Mike this morning. There's an Instagram channel called Heads Up Guys, and they share a lot of statistics, inspiring quotes and whatnot, and just reality checks too. And this one here was 50% of men who have completed our stress test report that a lack of meaning or purpose is a major stressor in their lives. And when I hear that, I think, yeah, that makes sense. And then the next question is like, how do I find my purpose? And then the next question is, wait a second, is it actually tied up in getting good with the stories from the past? Is it a little bit of all of it? And then eventually it kind of just feels like oh man, where do I fucking start? You know what I mean? That's the first thing that comes to mind. I don't know if you want to share some thoughts on that, but I do know that I want the guys to jump in here too and ask some questions, but maybe just what comes to mind to you when I say that out loud, even to the idea of finding purpose.
Yeah. That's a really, really interesting question, because you ask almost anybody what their purpose is, and most people can tell you what it's not, but they can't tell you what it is. Right. And I genuinely believe that, from the time that we're born, I mean, think about it. How many of you have kids? Almost everybody. Okay. How many have been around kids, nieces, nephews? Like anybody, does everybody have experience with kids? Yes. Is that fair to say? Okay. So can we all agree that when children are coming to this world, they are born as their most authentic, brightest, most raw version of self, right? Like, can we all, the creativity, the movement, the flow, the fearlessness, the lack of belief systems that are ingrained, the just free will that exists, right? All of us have it. All of us still have it. Most of the time, it's just really hidden behind all those layers of trash and layers of armor that you're protecting yourself with. And here's the other thing. You're also protecting yourself because of legitimate reason. The world has told you from literally age 2, 3, 4, 5, you should do this, you shouldn't do that. You should be this, you shouldn't be that. You should want this, you should not want that. You should chase this money. Definitely stay away from that money. You should want that car, that house, that job, and everything will be okay. Should's a shame-based word. It implies that whoever you are, whatever you're doing, it's not good enough. And so what happens? We start funneling ourselves down this little tiny path until we fit inside this box of who the world has told us who to be, because we believe if we exist in there, we're going to be fucking free. Here's the reality. You're trapping yourself. You can't find your purpose. You can't have the energy flow, the creativity, the fun, the love, the joy, the freedom, the fulfillment. And here's the reality. I have to say this because, like, so often, right, it is mixed up in this thing, but you've denied so many elements of your own voice for so long because the external noise has been so loud that you don't even fucking know what's your truth, what's your narrative. And oh, by the way, every single piece of trash, every single emotional trigger has associated with it both an intellectual and an emotional narrative, both of which could be true. And so how do we start to, like, decipher through all these crazy messages and information to get back to the core of who we are and see it with absolute clarity? Well, you got to go digging, because the reality of it is all the treasure in your life is also formed from all that trash pressure. And it does have to be decoupled and unwound. But here's the reality. Everyone in the human experience wants four things. We all want to be safe. We all want to be protected. We all want to be seen and understood, and we all want to be connected. By the way, these last two don't happen unless the first two do. So what happens? The world starts telling you who you should be, what you should want, all these pieces that are like, well, that doesn't feel right, but well, I guess that's what the world's telling me to do, so I guess I need to, right? So we don't feel safe. We don't feel seen and understood. We definitely don't feel connected. And what happens when we don't feel any of those things? We protect ourselves. Now, I want all of you right now, I'm assuming every single one of you at some point has touched, seen, or been around one of those 35-gallon outdoor black trash bags, right? Is that fair to say? We all know what that looks like? Okay, now I want you to imagine, take a unfolded, completely open, not open like you're putting it in the can, but flat, square trash bag. Hold it in front of you like this. Imagine it. Now I want you to tell me this. How can anyone see who you are, what you want, your heart, your soul, your desire, your intent, your energy, your heart, your everything about you through this invisible force field that you're holding in front of you to protect you? Oh, and by the way, that's assuming that they're not carrying their own. That's going to further distort it. Right? So here's the reality. The second you protect yourself, you guarantee that you don't get the two things you want most, which is to be seen and understood and to be connected. Because the second you put that in place, you've just put an invisible force field that promises it will not happen. Shit, I carried armor with my wife until the last 2 years. It means my wife didn't even know all of who I was, even though she felt my soul, my heart, my love, and that's why she stayed with me through all the shit. But the second you protect yourself, you guarantee you're going to disconnect yourself. So we teach this concept of being a protector and a connector, which means there's two ways to lower your armor. One, you can fabricate it in a moment by telling yourself that you're safe and protected. Or two, you can go digging and start to unpack the shit that's actually causing you to feel this way so you can escape the perpetual pattern and don't have to fabricate lowering anything. Right? But I believe that until you can unpack, you need to learn how to fabricate and lower. So what does that look like? Well, shit, I walk in this room. I fortunately know three of you. Three of you I don't know. Man, if I'm not clear on who the fuck I am and I'm insecure, then I'm not going to feel good in this room. I'm going to come in here and try to have to talk to all of you, but fuck, like, what if they see me? What if I'm a fraud? What if I'm a fucking imposter? What if they don't believe me? What if I can't actually help them? What if Trevor and Mike want me to come help you and I fucking can't? The second I start existing in any of that state, I'm protecting myself, which guarantees all of it will be fucking true. Right? Because the second I protect myself, my armor goes up. I can't portray to you and I can't even receive you through my own armor. Right? When I was carrying my armor, my wife used to say something like this. Hey, babe, what are we going to do with the kids this weekend? My shame filter would cause me to hear it this way. Hey, honey, you've not done enough to be a good husband and father this week. So I'd really like to know what you're going to do to make up for it this weekend. Then what would happen? I get defensive. I'm like pissed. I told you being a husband and father is the number one thing to me. And I'm like, what the fuck? And so what do? I rattle off the 10 fucking things I've done in the last 4 days to show her I'm a good husband and father. That wasn't even what she asked. That was my armor, not hers. Trash does two other things, and I have to wrap this up because it comes full circle to the purpose question. And I'm like, thank you for allowing me to just flow with this a little bit because it's important. Trash does two other things, guys. If you can lower your armor, by the way, I'm going to complete the protector and connector thought because I didn't close the loop on that. If you can fabricate and lower your armor and convince yourself that you're safe and protected, what does that mean you can do? You can wrap a layer of protection around the environment that you're in, which actually guarantees that everyone there can be safe, protected, seen and understood, and connected. I believe as men and as leaders, that is our job, to be the protectors and connectors in our families, in our businesses, in our communities. We have the energy. We have the authority to hold the spaces to ensure that everyone is safe. My family felt physically safe, financially safe. They have felt leadership. They felt love. They didn't feel emotionally safe with their deepest, darkest, most intimate portions of self, which, by the way, is who everyone is. So to become a protector and connector, you allow and facilitate that. Now I want you to imagine holding two 35-gallon trash bags full of yard debris out in front of you, full length in your arms. How long could you hold it there? Come on, Joe. How long could you hold it? Tell me.
Not long enough, man. Can't do it.
Not long enough, but shit, you're going to try, right? And what's going to happen? The longer you carry it, what's going to happen in your shoulders? What are you going to feel?
Tight. Everything's locking up.
Yeah. Now, what I'm curious about is, does the weight of those bags ever change? No, but what's your perception of the weight the longer you carry it?
Shit's getting heavier and heavier by the second.
Fuck. Our trash is the same way. The longer you carry it, the more it incrementally crushes you, and the more you're going to feel heavy and the inability to breathe because you're fucking crushing yourself for what you don't want to process, unpack, and remove. Because you're afraid. By the way, we all are. It's hard. But here's the guarantee. If you want to continue to feel like garbage, continue to do what the world has told you. Push through and push down. Now, none of you are going to do that because you are conscious men who are elevating this. But there's still elements and layers of all of this. The third thing trash does is there's two types of people, just like there's two types of trash cans. One's with lids and one's without. There's those without lids, right? That we all know those. They're like the fucking, they just energy vampires. They come into every room and everything is doom and gloom and fuck. My dog died. I lost my truck. Cool. But they can't contain it, right? Their can's only so big and they don't have a lid, so they can only push down so much before it starts overflowing and burying everybody else in their world. COVID was like the perfect representation of this, by the way, because everybody brought their businesses, their extended family, their gyms, schooling, work, all into the home. So imagine this analogy. Does everybody have a trash can in their kitchen? Yeah? How many of you take out your trash every day or every other day? What happens if you don't? It'll start to pile over, right? It'll overflow from the can. It immediately impacts your kitchen. You can no longer, right? It starts filling up the kitchen. So you can't get healthy food. You can't get communion. You can't get connection. Then if you don't deal with it, it's going to continue to pile up because trash continues to come into our worlds every day, guys. Right? And so what's going to happen? Now it starts to fill up the living room and the dining room. Well, fuck. Now it starts to go down the hallway, impacting your relationship with your kids. It enters into your gym. It enters into your business. It enters into your extended family. Because if you don't identify and take out your trash every single day, it continues to pile up. So the other kind of trash cans are like me, those with lids, and mine not only had a lid, but it had a seal and it had a lock. Like nobody fucking knew I had trash for a long fucking time. Right? I bottled that shit so tight. Every time I pushed down, though, I kept building pressure till I built a fucking trash bomb that was going to send shrapnel through my world, causing damage, and then guaranteeing a higher degree of energy and resistance to create repair so I can get back to center in my fucking life. Just because I didn't want to take out the trash every day. Right? And so the reality of it is when we understand that this is what happens, when we don't actually do the healing that's necessary, the reality of it is we find our purpose by also surrendering to allow our purpose to find us. Fighting causes us to force a belief system, which only causes us to seek more information to validate our belief system, which is why everything in this world is polarized, because if I can exist in one of the two poles, then I'll be safe. reality of it is the gift exists in the gray area. Always. And so why I think this is important is if we can get to the ability to understand our intellectual and emotional narratives, bring alignment back to them, we can seek congruence consistently in our life, and we can complete that 18-inch journey from our head to our heart so that we're actually feeling and healing and understanding more parts of ourselves, because we don't just learn how to think and feel, but we learn how to think about our thinking, think about our feeling, feel our thinking, and feel our feeling. And oh, by the way, when you take that quadrant, you layer it on top of your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual self, now you have a three-dimensional world you can move through, and you can be the observer and participant in your life real time. It's possible for every one of us. It just requires you to be able to flip open your lid and look inside, and then you realize the power of the heart. Heart's 100 times stronger from an electrical charge standpoint than the brain. It's 5,000 times the magnetic pull to the brain. And just so that you all know, as we talk about this, there's 40,000 brain-like cells that exist in the heart that have cellular memory. And it's been scientifically proven that if you go through the process of intellectually processing your past in therapy, and you don't actually embody the feeling, then those 40,000 cells in the heart don't heal, neither do you. If you don't embody it, feel it, and understand it below the fucking neck, you're not moving. And the trash is keeping you stuck. So I believe when you clear out enough of the trash, you remove enough of the resistance and the interference, your purpose is right here. You just can't see it.
There's a lot.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
There's a lot to unpack and think about there, and I love it, and so appreciate that. It's one thing that comes to mind for me is obviously how we start to look at this stuff, right? And there's two types of trash you talked about there that stood out for me. It's our daily trash, right? And some of the tools, of course, we leverage in this container that we've created are the breath, the meditation, so space and silence, and then of course journaling, trying to bring what's inside out. But beyond that, do you have any guidance or things that you've built in or are still building in daily that allow you to not only acknowledge the trash that's seeping in, but to try each day to expel it as well, so that you can allow that intuition, that creativity, and to hold space for others?
That's a great question. I mean, I could give you a lot of pragmatic stuff, but I could also give you some abstract pieces so you guys can apply it specific in your world. And I think that's the place I'm going to lean, because the reality of it is my flow and my process may or may not work for you, but the pillars that frame it will. And that's what I want you to hear, because this isn't a process. It's a constant evolution. Right. I don't believe that these pillars that exist for identifying and taking out your trash are linear. I believe it's more like an infinity, because you're consistently looping back and through yourself to deeper and better understand. And each one of the pillars has relevance at different points in the journey. Is that fair to say? Okay. So I will tell you that there's a lot that's come from this, but I'll keep this part tight. I want you guys to hear, and I need to say one thing before I'm going to integrate it into this answer. The 5 pillars here. Okay. The first one is awareness. Okay. This is not just becoming more aware of all the ways that you should be judging yourself, which is often what happens when people raise their level of awareness, right? Awareness is actually about extracting how you feel, the narratives and the lessons tied to your experiences that allow you to see you more clearly. I had to become aware that shame impacted my life. It impacted my life, not just at home. The anger, by the way, anger is always armor, and it's always a secondary emotion, protecting something. My anger was protecting my shame, connected to my role as a father in that example that I gave you. But I talk fast, I walk fast, right? And there would be situations when I was consulting with multi-billion-dollar companies and a relationship I initiated, and would bring in my partners from this team to help once we actually had won the deal. And what would they do? They'd be like, shh, Brian, you can't talk so fast. You can't talk so loud. That's not appropriate in this environment. Right? And because I wasn't centered in myself at that time, what would I do? I'd shrink down, right? I'd bite my tongue. I'd feel like I wasn't worthy, even though I was the one that had orchestrated the whole fucking thing. I couldn't even own that, right? So I have to be aware that shame impacted me. And it impacted me in both ways, if I'm being honest, because shame has two talk tracks. I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. And when you shut that down, you show up in the arena, you're ready to go to battle. It's who the fuck do you think you are? See, there's a lot of things major in my life that I've done that I always felt the need to apologize for. Couldn't accept it, couldn't receive it. The bigger I lived, I thought I was making other people feel worse. I had to become aware of all of those dynamics because you can't be intentional with what you're unaware of. Okay? Ownership is the second pillar. Actively accepting your part or your responsibility for the issues in your life, your business, your relationships, and your health. Again, blame and shame are off the table here because this is only about perspective seeking. Here's the truth. The trash from your past is not your fault. It just becomes your responsibility once you become aware of it or you start dumping others in yours. Ownership is also about repair, right? So when I stepped into owning my anger, and it happened fast, 3 days after we discovered it and unpacked it and understood it, I went and I sat down and had breakfast with my in-laws. Told them what had gone on and what my armor and protection had done to separate our relationship. The ways that I was now aware that I was treating, interacting, and speaking to my wife in moments that I was blind to myself. That's not how I see her. That's not how I ever envisioned to protect her. And that I promised them in that moment I was going to do everything I could to make sure that the negative effects of anger weren't going to affect our house as a result of me. You know what her dad said? All sounds great. Fucking show me. Here's the reality, guys. The world will never judge you based on your intent. They will always judge you based on your actions. So when you can create congruence in your intellectual and emotional narratives and remove the interference and you can own that position, it's amazing. Your actions and your intent are actually aligned. There's no separation, no confusion, no distortion. But it requires you to step into that. Ownership also happens in moments. Like now, if my wife says something to me and I get triggered, I pause, say, hey, babe, I just got triggered, so I don't think I heard what you said correctly. Do you mind restating it? And I'll try to hear it through a more neutral lens. And if I can't calm my energy, maybe we can just revisit this later. So we can guarantee no damage ever gets created. No need for armor to go up. No need to carry additional weight because we were able to, in the moment, own our own reactions. Unpack is the third one. This is feeling for the purpose of healing. I told you the stats on the heart. This one's pretty self-explanatory, but what I want you to know is that this is allowing yourself to feel the trash from your past and understand physiologically how it shows up in your body. The point here is to sit in it only long enough until it points you towards what's important. Now, this is a really simplified version of it, but what I can tell you is what this means is, again, I don't want you to sit in a position where you're going to feel like garbage longer than you need to, longer than the lessons you can extract, because again, this isn't about shame and blame. This is actually about asking what questions. What could I do differently next time? What have I learned that will allow me to be in a better position? What can I put in place to ensure I don't react and create damage? It's a different conversation. 4 is flip the lid. Oh, and by the way, sorry, unpack is where we also do the deep work. This is when we actually have to get back to the moments and understanding where the emotional and intellectual narratives came from, where that reaction of feeling like I'm getting challenged or defensive in moments when I'm not really actually existed from, because till I get to the source of that trash, can't remove it. So it's about understanding, not shame and blame. 4 is flip the lid. This is not flip your lid and get angry. This is like flip your lid and see what's risen to the top. Lay out your trash in the light, like what emotions and thoughts are running through you right now. Like list them out right now with no attempt to rationalize. And I don't mean literally this moment, but like that's the concept of flip the lid, is in this moment, let's do a real-time check-in. Because this is about separating fight or flight in the moment so that you can actually respond. This is my ability to communicate what I just did to my wife when I felt triggered. Right? When I said in unpack, by the way, physiologically how it responds, this is really, really important. This isn't the emotion. This isn't the feeling. Most people, when it's asked, how does that feel in your body? They say, oh, it feels really heavy, or man, it feels like shame or anger. I don't want you labeling that. You're putting labels on what you're experiencing. You're not physiologically paying attention to the difference in your body. So what do I mean by that? How does your heart rate change? How does your respiration rate change? What happens in terms of your like overall energy, body, heat? Do you feel your chest get heavy? Do you feel your jaw lock up? Do you feel a tightness in your throat? I'm talking like physiologically, because until you know how it moves through your body, you're never going to escape it. And just labeling it with an emotion doesn't give you enough clarity into your own existence. Flipping the lid and doing this real time in the moment is where we can start to kind of move these things, because that's how we can truly recognize how we can move. And when we get triggered in a moment, there's a couple of questions you guys can ask yourselves. These help me recenter all the time so that I can claim ownership with my wife, right? It's two things. Is what I'm reacting to right now due to what's right in front of me, or the trash from my past? If you've done the work, you'll be able to answer that question in a millisecond and separate in the moment. And the second question, because every time you react, you get armor, you're protecting, is what am I protecting right now? Most of the time, it's not even fucking real to what's in front of you. So why are you protecting? 5 is move. This is where we create freedom. How does it move through your body? How does it move through your world? How do we move through it? I told you the physiological response and unpack. I came back and looped that back. Shame moves through my body 5 or 6 different ways. I told you 2 of them. One manifests as anger and defense. One causes me to shrink down. Anger shows up in my body 5 or 6 different ways. It's not always the same. But it's the same trash, the same triggers, the same emotions. So if I don't understand the physiological response in my body that it's different, I'm going to think it's different. That's why shame is so dirty. It's the fucking ultimate wolf in sheep's clothing, because it presents itself as control, perfectionism, scarcity, like 50 different emotions, right? But once you know how it moves through your body, then you can start identifying how it moves through your world, i.e. what triggers you. One of my anger triggers is my fucking chihuahuas going off when the doorbell rings. Like, that sensory overload puts me on edge instantly. But why is it important for me to understand that? I mean, I can sit and own that and claim that. And it's like, oh yeah, it's my dog. So what if I feel edge for a moment? Well, what happens if my daughter or my son comes and jumps in my lap right after? Have I actually diffused it? Or are they going to receive the fucking energy I'm reacting to because of the dogs? Always, they're going to receive the energy. So I have to be able to claim ownership in that moment so I can move through it, because as soon as that happens with my dogs, what can I do? Okay, move on. Sometimes it's as simple as a breath. But what do I do every single day? Just like I take out the trash in my house every single day, I flip open my lid every single day and I scan my can every single day. Because I don't want to carry into my sleep, into my memory consolidation, into my connection with my consciousness, the shit that's not going to serve me. And so if I got triggered earlier in a day because of my historical relationship with money, but it's not how I currently view and exist, then why would I allow myself to carry that energy going into sleep, which is only going to further condition it into my unconscious? When I have the ability to separate it real time and release it that night, because, well, shit, that's not consistent with my own reality. That's not consistent with my own existence. Until you get clear on these things, right, you're just going to continue to feel the same patterns. I know I did for a long time.
Dude, I'm so glad that we're getting through all of this stuff. There's so much being talked about, obviously, and you can see everybody's kind of taking notes, and there's lots of stuff to take away. Just conscious of time, we got like 10 minutes left here. I want each of the guys to be able to share what they've taken away from this, what's coming up for them. Obviously, there's not a lot of time to go back and forth on it, but I do want everybody to have the opportunity to say out loud, like, what's coming up for you here. So let's take a couple of minutes. Alfred, you want to maybe kick us off, and then Joe and Brett, and then David? Is that cool? Okay. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Brian, I appreciate all that insight. That was really cool. I have a ton of learning to do.
We all do.
I've had the pleasure of doing some reflections in our inner circle group here in the last little bit, and it's kind of allowed me to share my perspectives and, you know, partially my demons and partially kind of things that I'm working through with the group. And we've had some great discussions. Yesterday was a really good one as well. Had to do with conflict and some of the things that came up when you talk about authenticity. You had mentioned the science behind the heart. Trevor and Mike can kind of attest to this. Is I'm pretty skeptical when it comes to people when they say something is scientifically proven. I'm a subject matter expert. I always question the authority of where did this person get their credentials from? And it always comes back to me, and something I've been learning lately is objective reality versus subjective reality. And I've battled this a long time.
Yep.
I'm a very conflicted person. I'm a very rigid person. I'm slowly breaking down those barriers, but I do have my biases. I do have things that I lean into. And the one that you bring up is, we talk about shame language, you talk about triggering, we talk about all these, these newer words, these are words not used 20, 30 years ago. And for me, it's a situation where there's how, in your perspective, do you draw the line between I'm doing the work, I'm in a group call like this, I'm in the inner circle, I know, kind of what speaks to me, what aligns with me. There's a fine line there between when I'm interacting with people, whether I want to be in a coaching mindset, I want to be in a sharing mindset, I want to be in a working cooperatively with my wife mindset. Where's the line drawn? Because everything you're talking about when you say I have to do the inner work, well, there's a lot of times that when we're speaking from a position of enlightenment or a position of I've done the work, people don't understand it and they put up these walls or they immediately go into conflictive mindsets. And the only way to find common ground is for me to digress. Is I have to be considerate of others, even if it doesn't speak to me. An example I can give you is, say, vaccinations, right? That's a topic that's come up a lot during COVID is, trust the science versus not trust the science. A lot of, that's kind of where a lot of this stems from for me. And there's a fine line between I have to meet your sensitive, your subjective sense of what shame and triggering is versus my objective. When I come from my position, it's my reality. This is, whether it's the vaccination is good or not good. People can argue, is that objective or subjective? It depends on who you talk to. There's a, so I feel a lot of what you're talking about is really subjective, but how do you narrow it down to what is the objective truth of somebody's situation and reality?
Well, that's the whole point, is that it has to be objective, right? I can sit and understand why you can call it subjective, even with the access to language, because we only have access to so many fucking words to describe the source in the universe in however we interpret it through our man-made construct and interpretation. Okay, here's what I would tell you. And I can feel it in your energy a little bit. So I think it's interesting, right? Like, I think it's funny how you talk about all these different roles like they have to be mutually exclusive. I'm a believer that they're actually all integrated if you're aligned with who you are. I have this concept of teaching a soft front and strong spine, meaning when you get to clarity on knowing who you are, what you want, like your role, your boundaries, your limitations, the things that make you tick, like you have a deep understanding of yourself, then you can be unwavering in a strong spine, which also means that you don't need to carry armor to protect, which means you can have a soft front, right? You can be open, authentic, real, like honest, share the shit that's actually going on, connect at the human level, because I don't have to be guarded because I'm trying to defend a subjective viewpoint based on a belief system that there's a lot of information I can use to validate that belief system. Again, I don't believe in like one side or the other, because the reality of it is I believe there's a gazillion shades of gray and it always falls in the middle. But here's what I'd say to you. Armor protects pain. Boundaries exist based on your clear existence. I hear a lot of armor in your language, which is also why you constantly feel like you're fighting, constantly feeling like you have to defend or seek the objective truth because you don't trust. You have a lot of reasons in your own objective and subjective experience that have shaped your belief systems that cause you to show up that way, carrying what you do to defend and protect in the areas that you feel you need to. What I would tell you is that I fought most of my life. I didn't start getting freedom until I learned to surrender. And what that actually means is fighting forces aside. It forces polarity. It forces subjectivity, right? Because if I believe one thing about a vaccine and you believe another thing about a vaccine, then we can't both be fucking right. We can't accept that they're both fucking true for each individual objectively based on their opinion on how they move through the world. No, fuck, you're a bad person if you get a vaccine. Fuck, you're a bad person if you don't. That's how the world operates because they're armored, right? But here's the reality. If we look at a pendulum swinging, fighting forces the pendulum to exist only on one side when its natural place is to swing and hang in the middle. That only happens through surrender. We all want freedom, but it's also the fucking scariest place to be because we have nothing to anchor to. And until you can anchor in you through your strong spine, you will be armored and your boundaries will not be clear. It's a totally different existence, my friend.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Ooh, Brian, that's good shit, man. I think one of my biggest takeaways right now is have that soft front and strong spine. That just came out because I
Think about it with your wives. Do they want to lay their head down on a fucking chest piece of armor? No.
Yeah, man.
And what did you say in the beginning, Trevor? You read a quote or something like, when I put it on. No, you said it, Mike. It was about the shirt. When you put it on, you wear it, you embody it. The fucking you put that suit of armor on, guess what you are? You're a fucking soldier. You're a knight. You're not the prince and the king everybody wants. You're hiding behind the armor.
That's my takeaway. And for me, shame. Just like what we've been talking about, I'm going to deep dive further on that and flip the lid, because I feel like through all your pillars, I've done a lot of it, and I've stayed a lot in the unpack phase, but the flip the lid phase in the moment, I'm getting better at it.
And the move, because that's the reality, guys. Like, I used to live it and exist in this for months and years at a time. I'd get triggered and I'd carry it. I'd be fucking mad, right? Guys, here's the reality. We're human beings. We're all going to feel it always. I'm not talking about the elimination of this shit. I'm talking about existing in it for minutes and moments, not months and years.
Good shit. Thank you, Brian. Passing it on.
We've got an upcoming Take Out Your Trash challenge that's done through an app that launches April 12th. If you guys have any interest in that, let us know. I can get you guys the links to register for that. It's $8, 8 days, 10 minutes or less per day in micro lessons. And we have a 6-week Trash Your Triggers collective group that's launching on the week of April 16th. That's a 6-week program that's going to go deep into each one of these with direct application. I throw that out not because I expect anything and I'm not selling anything, but if you guys really want to dig in and the timing is right, there's 2 opportunities coming up in 2 weeks.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Brian, because that was one of the things I was going to ask before we run here. We are 1 minute to this, to the half hour here when we said we were going to be done. You got a hard stop and got to run right now?
So here's the thing. I technically have another meeting, but I'm here and I want to be here. So let's take 2, 3, 4 more minutes and my wife can start the next meeting without me. Wyatt, can you make sure she knows that I'll be a couple minutes late?
Okay, beautiful. I just want Brett and David to even just say a few words, just so everybody gets an opportunity to share what came up for them here today. Go ahead, Brett.
This was great, man. Appreciate it. Joe hit on a few things. I'll just take Mike's question maybe one step further. I think you give us the 5 pillars, but 2 years ago you said you were able to, I think, properly, flip your lid and dig in a little deeper. What were the actual one or the first maybe 2, maybe even best 1 tool that you truly found to be able to allow you to do that?
Yeah, so I've got one of the things that I had referenced quickly, and there's a lot. I hate to reference tools because it's not about the system and the approach. It's about the philosophy and understanding of how to apply it for you. So that's what I want to be clear, because it's different for each person. But I will tell you that one of the most active things that helped me reconcile was 2 things. 1, I'm dense, I'm dumb, I need visual reminders. And so when I got into the anger part, because it was so blind to me, like legitimately when my wife told me this and we were like, all of a sudden the light bulb went off and realized I'd been operating with anger. I'm not kidding you when I tell you that was not my belief system 2 seconds prior. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I know I'm angry. No, like I genuinely didn't see it. Right. And so for me, I had to unpack a lot. You have to get to the source. And I was given a few gifts, but I had to really sit in those moments of understanding like where I was fighting, where pain was showing up, how are things happening. And so because I'm dumb and dense, these 3 words have a lot of meaning to me: trust, surrender, breathe. Trust that I'm going to be okay. Trust that every time I've ever been in a situation, I've always had what I needed, money, people, always. Like, I've always been okay. That doesn't mean there haven't been hard moments, but I can trust that it's all going to be okay. I can surrender to the moment. I can surrender to the fight within me that's telling me that it's not okay. I can surrender to the flow of the universe. I can surrender to the perspectives that I'm seeking in front of me. And that doesn't mean that I don't take intentional aligned action. Surrender to me is not lack of action. Karma is defined in the Sanskrit word as action. It's required. It's an essential part of the ingredient. But I have to be able to surrender to recognize that and then breathe. It's just a constant reminder. I can breathe and let anything go. I can breathe and center myself. The other one is our thinking, feeling quadrant. And I can send you guys a little bit of a breakdown of what this looks like. But this is the quadrant that I referenced about thinking about your thinking about your feeling, feeling your thinking, and feeling your feeling. right? I'll give you like a really, really quick example on this potentially. Let me see if I can figure this out. Okay. It's a recent one for me, right? I had a historical broken relationship with money. We've been in a tight cash flow window over the course of the last 3 months because of some decisions we made to shut down 4 businesses last year, realign. And I have no concerns about the midterm and long term. But for the first time in my life in a long fucking time, I'm like, oh shit, hopefully I can make payroll. Oh shit, what the fuck am I going to do if that lender calls and they want a big payment that I don't have right now? Right? Like legit, like that's all real. Right? That's happened in the last 3 months in my life. So what does the thinking, feeling quadrant look like? Okay, well, what are my thoughts on the situation as they organically are? And what are my feelings on the situation as they organically are? Well, my thoughts based on all of my objective information about what's happening, where I am, the congruence in my life, everything that's taking place is, I'm really not worried about it. It's going to be okay. Like all the people, all the opportunities, all the everything, it's like in our life, the gravity right now is insane. And though the financial result isn't where I know it will be, what's really interesting is for the first time in my life, that's the only metric that I've ever used to measure anything externally that isn't in the exact direction I want it right now. But my thoughts are like, man, I'm centered, I'm clear, like I'm living the rhythm and existence I want. My feeling on it is like, fuck, what am I going to do? I don't know how I'm going to make that bill. I don't know how I'm going to make that. I don't know how I'm going to pay my team. I can take out more loans. I can go tap into 401k. I could there's more shit, but like, it's going to be expensive to access that cash. Fuck. I don't know if it's going to be okay. Right. So I set those 2 thoughts and feelings because now we go through the quadrant. I got to think about my thinking. Man, okay, well, my thought process is I think everything's good. We're aligned. We have the rhythm. All these pieces are good. The objective measure of what's happening with money doesn't indicate where the energy and the currency is actually flowing in our world right now. And that's okay. Man, I think that's a pretty solid thought. And that's great. My thought process on that thought is consistent. Now I'm going to think about my feeling. Man, it feels like I'm not going to be okay. Well, it's never not been true. I mean, it's never been true. You've always been okay. You've always made the payroll. You've always found a way. There's always financial blessings. Every single time. I can objectively and subjectively look at it back in my life and give you 50 examples of when I thought the world was about to end. And sure enough, the next day I woke up and it didn't. In fact, and all of a sudden we were given a path. So I'm thinking about that feeling. Well, okay, and my thoughts on that feeling aren't consistent. Now I'm going to feel my thinking. All right, I just centered in on what I believe. I know where I'm going. I know where we have these things aligned. How do I feel about that thought process? Fuck, it feels pretty good. I believe it. I feel it at a cellular level. I feel the momentum. I feel the energy. I feel the framing of what's happening right now. This must be true. Now I have my thinking about thinking and feeling my thinking aligned, which means my head and my heart have a narrative that they are congruent on, even though there's 2 that exist in my world. Now I'll go down to the feel of feeling. Man, I want to sit in that. What makes me feel that way? How do I feel about feeling shitty about my relationship with money and like what's going to happen and my not knowing how it's going to happen? I don't feel good about that. It doesn't give me energy. It drains me. It depletes me. It's not consistent with my current worldview. So what does that tell me? My intellectual narrative in this case is actually the one that's accurate, but my cellular memory hasn't caught up to my own existence yet. So I'm still reacting in moments that have told me that what this feeling is this belief system and emotional narrative that's tied to it. But what I've just shown you is I decoupled it and it's not fucking true. But my body and my mind are telling me 2 separate things. Are they both true right now? Well, yeah. But are they true right now? Or is your body not caught up to where your consciousness and your mind is? And sometimes it's the other way. So that's one of the things I often use to realign myself. David, brother man, I got to run here in a second. So what's up, bro?
Yeah, mine's not mine. No question or anything. I just want to say, obviously, thank you for your time. I mean, that was an incredible hour there, hour and a bit. One of the things that kind of resonated with me was one of the things you said at the beginning about talking with your wife, and she'd say, you know, what are we going to do today? I totally feel that, and for a long time, I felt that same way. Where, you know, even if she's like, hey, like, what's going on with the banking or whatever the situation, I always felt attacked, like I needed an answer. So it resonated just knowing that, you know, obviously that's been something I've worked on with communication, but I feel that deep. So along with the other thing you were saying about letting kind of the universe unfold and life unfold, that's kind of what I've been working on. So yeah, again, just appreciate the time, and yeah, it means a lot.
Again, for those moments, in those moments, you need to ask those two questions. And is what I'm reacting to what's right in front of me, or what the trash from my past? And ask yourself, what am I protecting? Because I can promise you that even though I didn't believe it for 14 years, my wife was actually never criticizing me, beating me up, being difficult on me. It's just that my shame filter didn't cause me to hear her heart in the accurate way. And then the patterns I created caused her to hide. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So if you guys want a deeper understanding of like these conversations and how my wife communicate, our podcast just launched 5 weeks ago, called Flipping the Lid. And the very first episode is with my wife and I, because we believed that before we asked anyone else to flip the lid in their lives, we were going to do it in ours. It was a real raw conversation. And any of you who have a spouse, I know will take something from that. And I believe Trevor is going to be launched as a guest in this next week. So Brad Lee just launched this week. He sat down in my home studio for an hour and 47 minutes. He and I become really good buddies. And the dude opened up, got real, and was phenomenal on this fucking show. And so like, just, I'm loving the rhythm. And if you guys want to tap into more of the way we communicate, that's a great place to do it. It's called Flipping the Lid on all platforms, on YouTube.
I can attest to the one with your wife. It connected on many levels in my relationship. It was great. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have to go, and I have to go quickly. I love you all. Take care.
Please express gratitude to your wife for us, brother, for giving us a little bit more of your time. Thank you, my friend.
I will. Take care.
All right. See ya.